It's the middle of winter up here in Caithness. We're mid-December, it's Christmas in a few days. So we're going to plant a fig tree. Now, it's a southern fruit. Of course, everyone knows figs, and they do well in greenhouses here. They do quite well fan trained against south-facing walls and so on. But this is at the top of a field on an exposed ridge in Caithness. But there's a reason we've gone for this variety. This is Fig at Chips, Welsh. Now this was found growing out of basically a rock wall at the back edge of a car park in North Wales in Bangor in Gwynedd, and the roots of this fig went underneath the tarmac of the car park itself. Very harsh environment. The branches were out over the sea itself, and it gets washed with seawater at high tides. It's a really hostile, very inhospitable, very windy place, but actually similar temperatures to here. So we know it's wind hardy, we know it can take harsh conditions, and we know that we're in the right temperature range. So to give it the best chance, we're going to go with, originally it's believed it was planted via a cutting from an Italian prisoner of war that was was working at a nearby large manor house. So that's its original provenance apparently. So yeah, we're going to give it every chance that we can. We're not just sticking it in the middle of the field and hoping for the best, although it probably would do quite well. I'll show you the microclimate we've prepared for it. So I'm facing south, straight towards the camera, so north is right behind me. So this hole I'm standing in is only about 8 inches deep. I've stopped digging at this point, I'll come to that in a minute. But this spot itself, down low here where the tree is going to be, is fairly protected. We've got the berm for the whole of the pond all the way around it, with just a little narrow slot here pointing south, which doesn't actually need to be there. It's just there for access if I need to get a digger in at any point in the future to clean the pond out and take silt out and so on. It's just future proofing. It's probably pretty much the most sheltered spot we've got on site currently. One of them anyway. We've got another couple of good ones. Over time, the pond berm itself will be planted, because this edge here, for example, is way above waterline. It doesn't generally get much higher than this. After a major rain event, it'll come up a few inches and make this into a true island, but it doesn't get particularly high. So a lot of currant bushes and things like that haven't got particularly deep roots can go along that berm quite safely without going down and compromising the clay seal of the pond berm itself. So it will have more protection from that side, and beyond that there's hundreds of trees being planted, and we've got another 1,000 trees going in next month. Now a lot of that is going to go down that side, so as that comes up and becomes more established as shelter belt, that will be belt and braces, really sheltered here. Similarly from that side, we've got 2 swales that are planted to trees over the next couple of years. Actually, that swale has been fully planted up. This top swale here is the next one. And beyond that, we've got a really good, robust willow fedge went in last year. So as that comes up, it's another layer. So no matter which angle you're coming from, the very worst winds are going to be buffered, and of course it'll be warmer as a result. Now in terms of microclimate, a pond is about as good as you're going to get. The only thing I could have done slightly differently is if we had more water to the south side, that would be a nice reflective effect with the sun to get even more heat into it. But to be honest, I don't think it's going to be an issue. We've got the temperature buffering effect of just thousands of litres of water behind us, and of the berms themselves make a huge difference. Now with this being a south facing slope on this little semi-island, it's a fair old slope. It's probably 45 degrees. Now, roughly, the way to think about slope to the south is for every 5 degrees of slope off horizontal, so 5 degrees, elevated towards the south, gives you the equivalent of 100 miles south. I've also heard it said it's another climate zone. I'm not too sure about that. It sounds quite extreme to me. If we went 500 miles south from here, we're not going to be, into the tropics. So, it just doesn't really work. And also, of course, we are only talking about solar gain rather than temperature. So, it does have an effect, but we're just talking about solar gain. So this is the solar gain equivalent in spring and early summer when you want things to be really coming along. The equivalent to being, down into the north of England, but at sea level with rainfall comparable to Kent. It's a pretty decent microclimate. Now, they've dug this little hole good and square. If you look at every instruction that you'll come across for planting a fig, will tell you that you need to dig down, line a 2 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot pit with slabs of stone, make sure there's no gaps or anything, and then plant it in there. yeah, it's how it used to be done. It does work, but apparently it's not absolutely essential. To get maximum fruit production when you've got it like in a greenhouse or something like that, where space is really at a premium, yeah, okay, you do that and you keep on top of the root cutting and all the rest of it, because, you know, it's important that you get as much as you can from a very high value space like, you know, an interior greenhouse. But this is just, you know, out on a pond berm. It really doesn't matter. As long as we get some fruit, we're still in a win. If we get no fruit, we're still in a win, because it's still, you know, biodiversity. So as things continue to heat up and so on, it might in 20, 30 years time suddenly start doing well. You just don't know. But I was going to dig it down a bit deeper than this, but there's a huge stone. I mean, literally half the size of that pit at the bottom of it. So I'm going to line all four sides with slabs that we've wedged up in the wheelbarrow, and backfill around them to create that hole, and pack that with basically our topsoil. You know, nothing too fertile, nothing too extreme, but not subsoil either. You know, just good quality, decent topsoil. And then we're going to top dress that with a little bit of mulch. But we're not going to put a slab underneath it. It's half closed off already, and below that is pretty much solid clay. So even though the roots will be able to get down into it and access the water at a lower level, because of course it's also got access to, you know, deeper water with it being so close to the pond or integrated into the pond. So yeah, it'll get to do that, but it will have its roots somewhat constrained, so we will still get the possibility of decent root crops. So right, next job is to get the slabs in. That's the slabs in place. As things get filled in around it, I'll adjust the levels a little bit, but that's perfectly good. You can see just how big that rock is, and it must be a good 6-7 inches thick. It extends all the way across here. So yeah, that's perfectly good. So I'm going to fill this up to about that sort of height while backfilling around it as well, and that'll give me a nice level support all around it. And then I'll show you what the next plan is once I got the tree in. Pretty much in. I've filled the box with decent topsoil, nothing too rich, and then I've put the plant in, the fig tree. I put a biodegradable membrane in, and then top the whole lot off with about 6 inches of wood chip. So it will slump over the next few weeks. I didn't tamp it down particularly hard because I didn't want to blow the edges of the box out. So that's all cool, and it sinks down a few inches. It'll drop a bit lower and get a bit more out of the wind. You can see what I've started doing with the stone. Over winter, as I work on other jobs up here, and I'm always digging stones up, it's never an issue. I'll just continue to build that around and bring it up maybe about a foot or so, and then backfill behind it with soil from the other side of the berm. And who knows, maybe even make another little niche carved out using the, putting the soil here to backfill around this berm to create something for that side. I've got a couple of ideas of something I might consider around there. So yeah, that is a fig tree on a north facing slope up in Caithness.